Good afternoon and welcome to the first class of EMW's second Pan India Classroom Series online. Shall we all clap? I am indeed very happy and extremely grateful to each one of you who has joined today in this session, which our teacher speaker, Sushila ma'am, will certainly make it worth your time. The human heart has been a symbol of emotional turbulence, and our emotional lives are dependent on that. It's clearly a very sensitive organ of our body and responsive to all negative and positive emotions. So the record of our emotional lives is written on our hearts. Well, as a lawyer and that way a conflict analyst for the last 20 years, I still can't say that I have a PhD in understanding conflicts. But yes, I can say that a lot of conflict can be managed without stressful legal battles if we recognize that our emotional well-being is equally important, if not more. So today's topic, conflict, is not only very relevant in each one's life, but it is also very complex, for which I invite Sushila Sarthi ma'am, to demystify it for us. Now, before handing over the mic to ma'am, a few words of introduction about her. Sushila ma'am is a designated senior counsel practicing in the High Court of Karnataka based at Bangalore. Amongst her many accomplishments, she has done her master's in sociology and a postgraduate diploma in industrial relations and personal management, and also a postgraduate diploma in ADR, alternate dispute resolution from ICADR. Enrolled in 1986, in her 33 years of standing at the bar and as a mediator trainer, she has trained many lawyers, judges, professionals in mediation. Authored 2 books. One, A Reader's Handbook on Mediation, and second is A Change Through Mediation. There's one more book she's written, which is in Kannada. She's also a renowned columnist in the leading Kannada dailies and runs a weekly blog to give tips to trainers giving training in mediation. I will share the link of that blog so it will be there for all of us to see. Now, we are extremely grateful, ma'am, for your time and to be a resource person today for our students. Please accept our deep gratitude, and we are truly honored to have you here with us to share your vast knowledge with us. Now, she also shared, let me also say that what you missed out last time, she shared an extremely helpful session on impasse in the first series. And I still remember so many things about it. So I'm really glad that all of you are here today to hear ma'am. Now it's time for some house rules. So I'll hand over the mic to the student moderator, Ridhiman Barua, who'll brief you about these ground rules. And thereafter, we can't wait enough for our session with Sushila Sarthi ma'am. Thank you. Ridhiman?
Thank you so much, Anupam ma'am. Good evening, esteemed Sushila ma'am, respected coordinators, and my dear friends from all over India. I am Ridhiman. I'm from Assam, but I'm currently studying in Symbiosis Law School, Hyderabad. I'm currently in my 3rd year pursuing BA LLB, and it is a great opportunity to be your student coordinator for this session. A few general rules about this session is that kindly keep your camera on throughout and your microphones muted. All the questions and queries that you have, and I'm sure you'll have plenty regarding this class, kindly put them in the chat box, and I'll take them in the end and put them forward to Sushila ma'am at the end of the class. In case in the middle of the class you do need to say something, please use the raise your hand option and only speak one by one. In case there's not enough time to take all the questions, kindly email me your queries and I will put them forward to Sushila ma'am. With that being said, over to you, Anupam ma'am.
So ma'am, may I please invite you, and we look forward to your session. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. At the outset, I should congratulate this team EMW. What a wonderful human service that. Really, it needs so many other aspects. Most of all, I would like to say here is that you have to sacrifice. I can understand what Pushpa is like, how Pushpa is devoting her time and how Mr. Thangachan and other members of the team EMW. I mean, hats off to them. It's not that I'm 60-year-old and I'm 35-year-old in profession. I know the difference between flattery and appreciation. With that, it's not an ordinary thing. I bow down to them. My honest salutations to Team EMW. Wonderful service, because we are creating a future generation. When we are doing something for the society, we are creating a future generation. We are shaping our country, we are shaping our society. That's where we are working at. It's not just the classroom series or EMW writing series. It is not just that. We are working somewhere else. The amazing. Hats off to them. Now coming to today's topic, it is 6:12. Probably by 7 o'clock or 7:10, I will close my session. There are 3 components here. One is that understanding conflict and disputes. And then other one is modes of dispute resolution and importance of mediation. As far as this modes of dispute resolution is concerned, and further less as far as the importance of mediation is concerned, because in the foregoing sessions by other masters, you will have several discussions on the third component of this. This I have active. Several books. Our exams used to start at 2 o'clock. It was always between 2 and 5. My husband always used to get this Jabwala series or 30 questions at a glance or the Sujata series like that. He will take it and he will read it while going from our hometown to city. And then for 2-3 hours reading, and then he will write the exam. He will get 40-42. I will get 50-55 or 50-52. That's all. So my endeavor here is to see to it that it is just like that, 30 questions at a glance series. That's all. Yes. May I request Mr. Thangachan, you have allowed me to share the screen, isn't it? Yes.
It's already there, ma'am. You can.
Yes. First, we need to know the difference between dispute. A dispute is the result of unmet needs. It is the result of violated expectations. What I want is not happening. What I do not want is happening. Why? Because of somebody else. And I want to prove myself right. I also want the other person to be proved wrong. This is the situation as far as dispute is concerned. As students studying conflict or any other human being, we need to understand the difference between fight, dispute, conflict, and adjudication. All fights must be either ignored or resolved at then and there. As far as dispute is concerned, you have 2 options. One is resolution of the dispute or adjudication of the dispute. As far as conflict is concerned, you can manage conflict, you can handle conflict, you can resolve conflict, or you can address conflict. What we suggest is, do not avoid conflict. This is the fundamental understanding with which we have to go ahead. Please understand, when we are talking conflict, any conflict situation creates some psychological pain is quite normal. It is important that every human being has that psychological pain. Because we are human beings, we have an advanced brain. Otherwise, we are also biological beings only. We are called as social animals. And there is every possibility that this psychological pain will occur. But it is also one of the essential factors. It helps us in evolution. Always we need not have to be worried about conflict as a negative issue. It has helped many people to evolve also. That's one of the basic understandings you have to have. When this conflict situation arises, when the needs, interests, values, and or goals of one individual overlaps with the needs, interests, values, and goals of another individual, or there's a perceived threat by another individual to my needs or my values or my goals or my interests by the other person. It can be a threat as far as one of these four is concerned. There can be a threat to my need, there can be a threat to my value, there can be a threat to goals, or there can be a threat to all of these also. So when does conflict arise? Conflict arises when there is overlapping or perceived threat by another individual of the needs, interests, goals, and values, or any one of these, or any one or more of these of one individual, then conflict arises. I'll give you a small example so that you remember this story throughout, so that you will remember. Hope the entire screen is visible. There is an old woman there and two young girls there. Can you see that? Tankachan, can you see the whole screen?
Yes, ma'am. It is there. It is there.
Yes, it is
Can
there.
you
We
see, please? Tankachan?
Yes, 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 we can see. We can see the whole screen.
Yes, yes. There is a woman and two girls. I'll tell you a storyline here. A lady aged about 35 years, she filed a suit for partition of a small house in Bangalore. Let us imagine. She is in Gulf and she is very rich lady and she is well settled there in Gulf countries. Here is a mother who is a widow and there are two young sisters. She has filed a suit for partition against her two sisters. During the mediation, this is a suit for partition, they were Hindus. So by operation of law, 1/3 share she will get 1/4 share, because 2 shares for the other two daughters and for herself 1 share, and mother share is 1. So 1/4 share from the father's property. Needs, values, and goals. You keep this story behind the back of your mind. Get back these components. Never be negotiated. If you go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, there are 5 different types of needs are explained. The first one is the physical need, wherein we consider water, food, shelter, rest, sex, all these things come under. I want safety for my family. I want security from any type of threat to my family, for my well-being, for my property, health, etc. This is the second option. Second type of need. The third is a need for love and belongingness. When people concentrate more on this love or belongingness needs, what happens is, supposing I am in love with somebody, or I expect somebody to love me, or I want that I should be belonging to somebody, or I feel that my lover has to belong only to me. What happens is, when this need is taking me, it is at a very maximum level, what happens is I forget the other needs. I forget to take food. I forget to give attention to my sleep. And I get into a zone of loneliness. I may fall even into depression also. This loneliness, love and belongingness. It can be between mother and children. It can be between spouses. It can be between two friends, whatever it may be, two lovers, whatever it may be. This is also one of the needs. Next comes esteem needs. Esteem needs is about status, respect from others, freedom. All these things fall under the category of esteem needs. Next is self-actualization needs. I have something, I can do something, I want to do something. For example, why are we here today? Sushila, or Tangachan, or Pushpa, or Sheila Balsari, all these people, all of us. Probably it's because of we want to satisfy our self-actualization needs. Self-actualization needs come into play when all other needs are satisfied. One important thing that you need to understand about needs is that if one type of needs are satisfied, the other type of needs pop up. I want food, shelter, rest, etc. That need is satisfied. My husband agrees. I have filed a petition for maintenance against my husband. He says, yes, I will give her 5,000 rupees. Okay. Then I will start. What about my safety and security? What if I lose my Anganwadi teacher's job? The next comes. If that is satisfied, the love and belongingness. Madam, don't I require my husband to be next to me? What if he stays always with his mother? Should he not come and stay with me? Love and belongingness needs. Like this, when one need gets satisfied, the other needs pops up. When we say conflict is because it can also be because of overlapping of the needs, you have to understand here. Go to the case history that I told you, I shared with you. The daughter wants to get married. It's her biological need. With a marriage, you get food, shelter, etc. Satisfied. And then safety. Safety and security needs are also satisfied. Love and belongingness needs are satisfied. I get respect as a married woman. So esteem needs are also satisfied. So it's a need for me. As a daughter, it's my need. But what about my father? My father's needs are also there. What is his need? Esteem needs, status needs, respect needs. He wants to see to it that his daughter gets married at an appropriate age. Coming from particular community in a small town, these are all common. Now you see, there is no overlapping of needs. Though there are individual needs are different, there is no overlapping of needs are there. Next comes interest. What is interest? Interest is why you want what you want. Go back to the story. Why does that girl Radha want to get married? Because she is in love with Muhammad Usmanullah. Why she wants? What she wants is interest. She wants to marry Muhammad Usmanullah. What is father's interest? Father wants to get his daughter married to his sister's son. That is his interest. See here, there is overlapping or threat of one's interest by other's interest. That is where the conflict has arisen. Let us go to values. What is value? Value means something that is very important in life for an individual. As far as Radha, a girl aged about 25 is concerned, she has no issues about getting married to a person of any caste. For her, all that matters is he should be a good human being. That's her value system. Don't look at caste, creed, race, etc. But what about father's value system? We should marry from our own community, not just community, from our own family, not even subsex. Marriage between subsex are also not allowed. This is what the father thinks. See here, there is overlapping of values. Now people from this group and that group, they come and sit together and then negotiate between the daughter and the father. And then father agrees, okay, you marry. Now, what is the goal? The daughter wants to get married within 3 months because otherwise Usmanullah will go to Gulf. He may come across more beautiful woman. He may get married to somebody. I can't leave him alone. I have to get married immediately. What is the father's goal? Father's goal is to say to the, yes, you can marry, but not now. After 2 of your younger sisters get married, then you get married to Muhammad Usmanullah. See here again, what happens? There is overlapping of goals. Now, though there is no overlapping of needs here, interest, values and goals of one overlaps with the interest, values and goals of the other person. It's under these circumstances, what happens is one gets a perceived threat. The daughter immediately goes and gets married to that person. Father gets a heart attack and father dies. The daughter lives in Gulf for 3-4 years. After that, she feels that the love and belongingness needs pops up. She wants love of her mother. She wants love of her sisters. So she gets back to India, but they don't allow her inside. There is a continuation of the conflict which has arisen between the father and the daughter. Now, who is continuing that? The mother is continuing. Conflict is dragging the past into future. This is where you need to understand. Now you see, when this happens, what we need to understand is what are the different elements of conflict. Somehow there is some problem. 1 second, please.
No issue, ma'am. We can see the screen.
You can see the screen, but it's not moving forward.
Okay, okay. Oh, I see. Oh.
1 second. Because
Yes, now it is right.
okay, 1 second.
Yes.
What does
Yes,
conflict
no.
involve? There has to be a serious disagreement. If there is no serious disagreement, it is not considered as conflict at all. So you need to understand that there has to be a serious conflict. And the issues are not negotiable at all. And there should be a long-term disagreement. It should not be short-term. Today I have fight or disagreement with somebody. Tomorrow I cannot go and tell, look, I have conflict. I am in conflict with my husband. I am in conflict with my daughter. No. The disagreement must be long. And there should be high tension level. And that person, my heart beating should increase. My God, something is going to happen. It should cause constant discomfort. These are all the elements that let you know that there is a conflict situation. Now you see, First of all, there should be opposing interest between the two persons. And I should know there is an opposing interest, and the other party should also know. Go to the same story. The daughter knows there is opposing interest between herself and the mother and daughters on the other side, and they also know. There has to be recognition of such oppositions. If I feel I am threatened by Tangachan, who is my brother, not enough. Even Tangachan should know. Oh, my sister Sushila is feeling a threat from my end. Both of us should feel. That recognition of such an opposition is very important. And there should always be something haunting within me that other person will definitely interfere with my when the sister comes from Gulf, the other two daughters and the mother, they come over to the street. There is a threat from this side also. And actions that reinforce such inference. What are the actions that confirm that there is a threat? My threat, what I have perceived as a threat is not just my perception, it is actual, because when I come from Gulf countries to see my mother and daughter with all the chocolates, fruits and everything, they don't even open the door. My younger sister peeps through the window, but my mother pulls her and pushes her down. Don't talk to her, don't even look at her. So actions reinforce such influence. All these things are there, then only it is a conflict, other conflict. Now let us go to why should we know about conflict? Mediation is dispute resolution mechanism. There are some situations, some of the disputes are because of conflict. Some conflicts may also be because of the disputes. So in mediation, when we talk to the parties, if a mediator comes to know that this dispute, there is an element of conflict here, until that conflict is addressed, we cannot resolve this dispute, we cannot help the parties to resolve this dispute, then the mediator enters into the arena of addressing the conflict. Otherwise, there will be so many conflict situations in every individual's life. We are not worried about it. If it is required for the resolution of the dispute, then we have to touch that area. Otherwise, we need not have to touch that area as far as mediation is concerned. There are some disputes where the element of conflict is not required to be addressed in order to resolve the dispute. That you have to understand. Now you see what are the different types of conflict you have to understand. There are three types. One is intrapersonal conflict, which is caused within an individual. That troubles me always. Oh, I got married to Muhammad Qasimullah. Okay, fine. But somewhere I feel, oh, I have left my family there. I did something wrong to my family. Did I do something wrong? My husband is a nice person. Yes. I can't leave my husband. He is such a wonderful human being. But why did I leave my mother and my sisters? Something is going on troubling me from inside. This is intrapersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict is between two persons. Between me and my husband, evident. Between me and my daughter, between me and Sheila madam. These are all, whatever conflict we have, this is interpersonal, is between. Intra is within yourself. The third one is mental conflict. It operates from the below the level of consciousness. What happens here is, it may not be visible, even I may not be knowing, but my behavior will be very peculiar and my mannerisms will be very peculiar, which will give an indication there is something that is seriously troubling this lady. There is a mental conflict which is troubling this lady below the level of consciousness. Supposing some cases come to us where the husband says wife is not cooperative in sexual relationship at all. Maybe the lady had undergone some sexual abuse at a very young age from her father or somebody from nearest relative or something. She had hidden it. When we make her to vent out all the emotions and taking the help of the counselors or people who are trained in psychology or psychiatry, then what happens is she speaks of that and this mental conflict that is working within her, which is preventing her from having normal physical relationship with her husband in a marital relationship, that can be addressed. That's how you need to understand. Now you see, there are different methods of identifying why a conflict escalates and how it de-escalates. When we are trying to understand about escalation of conflict, I have always followed this Guy Harris method. Maybe there are different methods. You can see there are various methods and suggestions given from various wonderful persons who have worked hard on this, in this field. I like this. See, how does conflict escalate? You know how it arises. It arises because there is overlapping of needs, interests, values and goals of one individual or any one of these or any one or more of these with that of the other person. How does it arises? Okay, it arises. Will it subside there? No. It may escalate. How will it escalate? For example, there is A and B. A perceives a threat from B. I feel threatened by Tangachan, who is my brother. Then that perception haunts me too much. I am sure that Tangachan will swallow all the property to himself. He will give all the property to his wife and her parental side. He will not give even 1/4 of it to his sister, that is Sushila. I have this threat. I feel angry. I have written only angry. It can be any emotion. Then I react. I start calling his wife. I abuse her. I start calling Tangachan my brother and abuse him. I react. So there is perception, there is a feeling or emotion, and there is reaction. My reaction gives an opportunity for Tangachan, my brother, to perceive a threat from me. So he starts perceiving a threat. Oh, this lady is doing something nonsense. What is my esteem need? Status, respect that I have in the society. She is going to harm this. So he gets threatened. He feels angry on me. Then what he does, he reacts. He takes phone and he calls. His wife calls, his wife's mother or father calls me. It expands. So what is it actually? There is a perception, there is an emotion or a feeling and an emotion, there is a reaction. My reaction becomes action for the other person. He acts, he feels angry or he feels disappointed, he feels frustrated. There is that. And then he reacts and his reaction becomes action. Action, reaction, action, reaction. In most of the cases you might have seen, madam, there was something, somebody suggested I go to police station. I just wrote 2 lines complaint, madam, that's all, my husband is not taking me inside. You have drafted just 2 lines of complaint, that is action. But what about the threat the other person has received? He feels it is not safe to be living with this lady. Tomorrow she will put all our family members behind the bars. Let us play safe. Let us keep her outside. Let us file a suit for, petition for divorce. So action, reaction, action, reaction. This is how the conflict escalates. So how do we handle this? In order to see to it that the escalated conflict de-escalates, what you need to do is, the perception of threat is the main cause of conflict. You have to make the other person understand that don't be threatened by any of the things that I said. Don't be threatened by any of the acts I did. Let us sit and talk to each other. So make the other person understand that there is no threat from your end. If you remove the threat part, then there can be de-escalation. There are 5 stages again going by Guy Harris. He says, first one is listen to the stories of each other. Controlled atmosphere is very essential. That's where in mediation we give controlled atmosphere. It can also be experts who are dealing with conflict resolutions. They will also give a congenial atmosphere. In fact, in your forthcoming sessions, you will have a session on communication skills where setting an atmosphere will be dealt with. Setting an atmosphere is a very wonderful communication technique where the mediator or the conflict person who is dealing with helping the parties in resolving the conflict will provide a congenial atmosphere. He sets an atmosphere in such a way that there is an enough opportunity for them to listen to each other. Acknowledge, accept their feelings and emotions. You need not agree. Why I'm going to explain to my brother Tangachan why I got angry. He may say, you're a fool, you shouldn't have got angry on these silly aspects. But he can listen to me. Apologize for your contribution. I will tell, look Tangachan, I little bit overreacted. I shouldn't have called your wife and your mother-in-law, etc. I'm sorry. Apologize. And then control your tone and body language. Again, this aspect you will get in tomorrow's or day after tomorrow's next class on communication. Focus on the future. We are all prisoners of the past. When you are assisted by some persons, they will make you understand that you have no control over the past, but probably you can have little bit of control over your future. Even future is uncertain, but still, to some extent, we can exercise our control over future. So can you think of future? That's where we say mediation is a process which brings a paradigm shift in the mindset of the parties. One of the paradigm shifts it brings is shift the focus from past to future. That's where these 5 ways to de-escalate the conflict is to be taken into consideration. Now, as far as conflict resolution is concerned, I again follow Dr. Jeannie Byrne. She is a famous psychiatrist and she gives 4 aspects, and then she says how we handle these 3 ways in which we handle conflict. She says that conflict is a natural phenomena. It can happen on a day-to-day basis. But one of the methods in which we deal with it is we avoid. Supposing I have conflict with Pushpa, I avoid that person herself. Tomorrow there is a wedding in our family. Pushpa is also coming there. I will find out whether Pushpa is coming. Yes, she is coming. When is she coming? She is coming for reception. I avoid going for the reception. I go for the muhurt. I avoid that person. Or even when we meet, I do not talk to her. Or even if I talk to her, I avoid talking to her about the topic because of which there is a conflict between us. And many a times I talk about Pushp and the differences between us, not with Pushp, but with Sheila Balsaria or Tangachan or Bhavani, etc. We talk with other persons. This is how we avoid conflict. The second is getting aggressive. You might have seen in your home situations. Father shouts, my father shouts so much that my mother becomes very defensive. She shuts down and she walks off. The mother-in-law shouts, or sometimes the daughter-in-law shouts. They become aggressive. The mother-in-law becomes she feels very threatened and she walks away. When one person gets aggressive, this is the way in which they handle. Getting aggressive is one of the ways in which people handle conflict. It's a body mechanism. But we know sometimes we get angry. It's not required. Afterwards we come to know, but we react disproportionately. That gives us an indication that we are not handling conflict properly. The third is non-aggressive conflict resolution method, where we have to spend our time and understanding of the non-aggressive conflict resolution, which is best suited. Don't avoid conflict. Don't get aggressive. You have to avoid these 2 things. When you are trying to avoid an individual, you have to, as an adult, you should come to know there is something, an issue of conflict here. which is preventing me from talking to my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, or my junior, or my ex-senior, or my teacher, or my friend. Because something gives an indication, oh, avoid her, don't go to her, don't talk to her, don't talk to her. That itself is an indication. The second one is when you look at somebody, be it your son, be it your daughter-in-law, son-in-law, grandchild, you become aggressive, that gives an indication, or your spouse, that gives an indication that there is a conflict situation. Then what do? Go to non-aggressive resolution mechanism. The next one is this stop-and approach is one that I adopt in my personal life also, and in my mediations also I have adopted. And when people come for some small help regarding counseling also, we have adopted this stop-and approach, and it has been very successful and very helpful, very simple method. This is propounded by, again, Jenny Byrne canvases on this. I request all of you to follow this. This is very easy. Stop-and is an acronym. S stands for source, T for time, A for amicable approach, B for behavior, E for emotions, and N for need. When we say S, source, you have to understand who is the source of the conflict. I have to understand who is the source of the conflict. Supposing there is a conflict situation between me and my husband. I have filed a petition for divorce against my husband because my complaint is that when mediator asks me, my complaint is that everything I have to do. I am 35-year-old in marriage. From taking children to hospital, to park, to museum, to attending parent-teachers meeting, everything I have done. My husband goes to office at 7 o'clock and comes back at 11 a.m. I am fed up. I want divorce. Who is the source of the conflict here? I have identified my husband is the source of the conflict. Next is time. Time includes place also. You should not be talking about conflict resolution, should not enter into the terrain at all if it is not a proper time, if it is not a proper place. Identify proper time and place. When they come to conflict resolution experts or mediators, we provide them proper time and space. Let us think for a while. Otherwise, supposing I have to discuss between me and my husband about the conflict, I can't talk to him in the morning as soon as he wakes up, or when he's going to office, or when he's taking food, or when we are going to bed. When you are going to bed, you should never speak about all these things. It's a happy time, comfortable time. We should never snatch that time to discuss all these things. So I had to identify evening 5 o'clock in the park, there is a bench where nobody comes. Let us go and sit there and talk. Time includes places. Amicable approach. You don't start. Why? Because the perceived threat, first thing that Jenny Byrne has said, you should remember, remove all the threats, that perceived threat the other person is having, that notion, you have to remove that. So you start with an amicable approach. Amicable approach is appreciate something good in the other person. Mediator asks, can you please tell something good about your husband, Sushila? I start telling. Chandru, you have been a very wonderful husband. You have been doing this. You have given the best for the children. Everything is fine. Amicable approach. I appreciate A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. Next is behavior. Behavior is the behavior with which I am hurt. So now, after telling that, I tell. While telling about the behavior, I specifically tell the behavior with which I am upset. I don't generalize. Always you do like that. No. I tell. I am 35. We are 35-year-old in marriage, Chandru. This is what has happened. To school, I took the responsibility. To medical requisites of the children, I took the responsibility. Their marriage, I took the responsibility. Household chores, I took the responsibility. I did all these things. I feel that you are considering me as a glorified servant. I am hurt by this. You are considering me as your glorified servant. I am hurt by this. I am deeply disappointed. When we tell about the behavior, we tell the behavior with which we are upset, and We identify the emotions also. Emotion is there. We identify the emotion. That emotion is I'm hurt, I'm disappointed. Need. I need that I'm respected by you as an equal partner, not as a servant. This is where is done this. This is done in mediation or conflict resolution expert. Then she looks at my husband Chandru. He will tell, oh, is that so? I'm so sorry, Sushila. I will share some of the responsibilities. I will give quality time to you also. Let us live a different life from today. I'm so sorry. Go back to what I said in the earlier this one. If there is need acknowledgement, there is apologizing. So these are all interconnected. You can't take one slide and one thing, something and go. The earlier lessons also you must remember. So what we do is you acknowledge, you do that, acknowledge, accept others' feelings and apologize and emotions. Apologize for your contribution. Control your tone and body language. Focus on the future. What is my husband doing? He is doing all these things. He has listened to me, has acknowledged. He has apologized when he said sorry to me, has controlled his tone and body language. I'm so sorry, Sushila, he's telling. Focus on the future. Let us live a different life from tomorrow. Isn't it? Wonderful. What did we do? Just stop and approach. That's all. This can be done in mediation, provided the mediator is capable of handling the situation. Now you see, there is another topic, very interesting. Hats off to Bar Council of India. They have introduced this topic. Wonderful. See, what is the role of the society and the community in conflict resolution? Conflict should never be allowed to escalate. If it has escalated, there is a hint of that, then we should try to see to it that it gets de-escalated. See, conflicts based on group identities are called as ethnic conflicts. For example, race issues, language issues. You have seen religion issues between tribes, between castes. We have seen this happening. When such things happen, the role of society in conflict resolution is to be very, very safely handled. It's a very sensitive issue because one thing that we have to understand is ethnic diversity can never be avoided. Can we say only one caste people only live in Karnataka? Not possible. One religion people only live in Karnataka? Not possible. Anywhere it is not possible. Language also, race also. And another thing is that ethnic diversity cannot be avoided is one aspect. Ethnic identity should be respected. I will have some attachment to my religion, my caste, my tribe, my caste, my language, my race. You can't find fault with it. Only thing is that just because you respect your religion, you cannot be disrespectful to another religion. Just because you have some attachment to your race or your language, you can't be disrespectful to persons who speak other languages. That is where again this role of society in conflict resolution arises. What we do is we split into two parts. This group belongs to him. This group belongs to her. No way. The two aspects are to be considered as ethnic diversity and ethnic identity. Identity has to be respected. Diversity should never be tried to be avoided. These are the two key components. And how do we address conflicts, conflicts between the communities? And in society, there is a conflict with regard to race or religion or language aspects or sharing of water, for example. We have come across several situations. Fair enough. Then also again go to the Steuben approach. Follow the methodology that is given there. It looks very simple, but at a deeper level, you can follow the method. Follow the methods given by Guy Harris, and you can de-escalate it. Now, let us go to the next part. As far as conflict is concerned, I have given you some points. Now, next is about this different types that the mediation and dispute, modes of dispute resolution is the next topic in the first week's chapter that has been given, prescribed by the Bar Council. Let us go to another topic. Negotiation, mediation, arbitration are the different aspects that they have given. As far as negotiation is concerned, we should encourage people to negotiate. When people negotiate and fail, they come for mediation. Mediation is known as assisted negotiation. In fact, if you read section 89, negotiation per se, that itself is one of the options given. That's one of the modes of resolution mechanism. Some people are capable of negotiation. Negotiation is, what is negotiation? Getting what you want at an acceptable price. Simple definition of negotiation is getting what you want at an acceptable price. What you want is individualistic. What is acceptable price is also individualistic. I may buy this saree for 10,000 rupees. You may buy this for 2,000. Somebody else for the same saree may pay 20,000 also. It is an acceptable price for her and the vendor. But if you are not capable of negotiating, sometimes we take the assistance of negotiators who are trained in negotiation. In Western countries, it is quite common. Even in India also, it is very common. Supposing I want to take an office space for rent, I catch hold of some commission agent. He negotiates for me. He also negotiates for the owner. Fix the price of everything and the deal is made. When it is assisted negotiation, it is not just a deal, but it is always a good deal. In mediation or in other context also, if you are trained in negotiation skills as an advocate, many are not negotiating, but in negotiation skills as far as different aspects of is concerned, so that they can try to get the best for their clients through negotiation. Concepts that you have to understand as far as negotiation is concerned. As far as mediation is concerned, it is not all the elements. See, negotiation also forms part of mediation, because mediation, one of the definitions of mediation is assisted negotiation. And when it comes to arbitration, arbitration is adjudication by a private judge. In fact, we don't have proper statistics to know how many cases are settled through arbitration. In Bangalore, mediation means in some areas where statutory bodies are the disputing, one of the disputing parties, agencies are one of the disputing parties, they don't want to come to mediation, because mediation is a consensual process where you agree or disagree on some things in writing. Tomorrow, somebody should not question the authority to, though they are empowered, though they are authorized to do that, or for some extraneous reasons you agreed for this, not for this. You could have agreed for different things. So they don't want to take a blame. So what they do is, generally they go to arbitration. In all contractual matters, they go to arbitration. Matters that have been referred to arbitration have also been referred to so they have come first for mediation. And if mediation fails, they go to arbitration. There is med or bar argument. And adjudication, as you know, it is through the court process. Now you say limitations of adversarial process and need for consensual resolution and mediation as preferred ADR mechanism is something that is prescribed in your syllabus. When we see here pendency of cases in India, 2020 August are some statistics subject to correction. I was given to understand there is 4.4 crores of cases that is pending all over India. When are we going to handle these cases? If you go to court of law, court cannot ignore procedural law. When you go through this procedural law, what happens is there is every chance that the delay happens. The consequences are that there is always uncertainty, another thing. One may win, but the possibility of the other person going to the next level is always there. Uncertainty is something, the fear of uncertainty is something which troubles a human being a lot. And ultimately, one fine day, if the same way in which the pending cases are being dealt with and new cases also start accumulating, maybe a situation may arise where we have been respecting courts from time immemorial. Probably people may have to resort to different methods for justice. Now, one of the situations is that in order to safeguard the people's right to get justice and timely justice, one of the things that the legislators have thought is to see to it that all the cases need not have to be adjudicated. Some cases can be negotiated, some cases can be resolved through mediation, some cases can be referred to arbitration, some cases can be resolved if there is an element of conflict, and if that conflict is addressed because of the conflict resolution mechanism, what happens is one can move away from the court system is what is considered. Now, considering all these aspects, what I request you to consider here is there is a great lot of emergency. I don't say need. There is it is not just, it's an emergency for us to switch over to ADR mechanisms. Lawyers are benefited. Law students are also benefited. Please focus your attention equally on ADR mechanisms and get yourself strengthened there, so that when you have to take your parties through adjudication process, there your role is different. When you are taking them through one of the doors of mediation, there your role is different. When you are acting as a negotiator for your parties, there your roles are different. But you have to get yourself equipped and be prepared to handle the situation. The olden days lawyer is different. The younger generation have to think that the profession demands many other things from a lawyer. It is not just we go to court, we argue a matter and come back home. These are all the comprehensive things that we have to keep in mind when we choose advocacy as our profession. Thank you all. If you have any questions, you can come back to 7:05. And I think we have 6 more minutes. 6:12 I started.
So anybody has questions?
They can raise their hand so that I can unmute them.
Yes, please raise your hands.
Yes.
We have one question from Yuvraj Singh Chandel.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is, what is the difference between conflict and dispute?
See, the difference between dispute and conflict is dispute arises when there is violation of expectations. But conflicts arise because of serious disagreements. And it is long term. Dispute can arise tomorrow itself. See, what I want is not happening, what I do not want is not happening. Supposing you are my neighbor. You are parking your car in front of my house. There is a vacant site, but I am unable to take out my car. There is a dispute. This is a dispute. Conflict is not just this. First, you started throwing banana husk into my house. Then you threw chicken pieces into my house. And then your wife started commenting on my husband. And I started commenting on your mother. It's a long term. Dispute can arise because of one instance, but conflict should have a long disagreement which troubles you from within. That's where I request you to go back to the one of the slides that we had shown you earlier. The elements of conflict: serious disagreement causing inner discomfort, issues are non-negotiable, long-term disagreement, heightened tension level. These elements may not be there to this extent in dispute. And in dispute, you want the matter to be adjudicated. You want somebody to decide whether you are right or you are wrong. But in conflict situation, you don't want somebody to certify that you are right or somebody to certify that you are wrong. In a conflict situation, you want to get rid of that conflict situation. That's all. That is the difference basically between these two.
Anusha.
Evening, ma'am.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, what if both the parties in that heated moment, if they stick to their decision, they don't want to compromise. Nobody is hearing us. What if, ma'am?
That is where we say we go to conflict resolution experts. We go to mediators. They provide an atmosphere. That's where Stauben approach says source is not just, if you have to choose time and space are provided. Time and space includes controlled time and controlled atmosphere. The process is controlled by the mediator. Process is conflict resolution expert. So that they listen to each other. The atmosphere is provided there. You lay down the ground rules. One has to listen. When one is speaking, the other should not interfere, intervene. Try to bring empathetic connection between the two persons.
How to open their mind to going to the resolution center. Suppose they are just closed-minded about the resolution.
That's where we have to give them a lot of awareness. The bar councils, the bar associations, the younger generation, the college students, you have to tell them whenever there is an issue of conflict, please go to an expert or try to sit and talk to each other. You need not agree, but listen to the other person. Acknowledging is not agreeing or disagreeing. You are acknowledging that this is the emotion the other person wanted to share with you.
And creating an example of lot of success when there'll be a lot of success in mediation. Maybe with this next generation, too many people trying to mediate, then people will be comfortable maybe with this idea.
See, we were all afraid of speaking about conflicts. There is a conflict situation in my house between me and my daughter. I feel very shy. I don't want to, discuss about this with Sheila, who can definitely, Sheila Balsari madam can help me. But I feel, oh, why should she know about something that has happened in my house?
We have a question from Ayush.
Ayush, yes.
Hello, good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, we generally see in a neighborhood family, there will be a lot of related to property. They know the solution, but they don't want to mediate because they have ego or anything else we can say, I guess. So they don't want to deal with the consequences in a mediation list, ma'am. So how we as a law student can make this process to happen to them, ma'am?
One is the body has got a defense mechanism. One of the defense mechanism that we adopt is we avoid meeting the conflict situations. That's one thing. That's what even we saw in Guy Harris method, or this Jenny also has suggested. We should not avoid meeting conflict. You should tell them why it is necessary to meet and address the conflict. That's one aspect. Another is denial. Even though there is conflict, I deny. I behave as though there is no conflict at all. I am a very happily married woman. There is no conflict at all. I pretend. There is somewhere the thought comes, there is some conflict, element of conflict, but I deny. Denial is another mechanism. Avoidance and denial are one of the conflict styles. It is a body mechanism, defense mechanism the body adopts. That an expert will help them understand, look, you can't be postponing this. It will be at the cost of your health and other aspects. So better you meet and address the conflict.
Ma'am, we have
Good
another
evening,
question from Parv Pancholi, Madhya Pradesh.
Good evening, ma'am. Could you please explain the point of reinforcing the conflict, ma'am?
Reinforcing.
Reinforce the conflict. We don't reinforce the conflict. We try to diffuse. We help the parties to diffuse the conflict.
We have another question from again from Yuvraj.
Yes, Yuvraj, you can ask now, please.
Ma'am, how to deal with unempathetic people? I mean, for instance, if one people, in spite of being wrong, not accepting, and he's being unempathetical towards the other person. So how to deal with the mediator?
First of all, considering that one person is wrong, itself is wrong. We don't judge people. One of the empathy blocks is being judgmental. So mediator doesn't decide who is doing wrong or who has done wrong and who has been righteous, nothing of that kind. Empathetic connections, it requires lots of efforts by the mediator to see to it that each other, two individuals understand each other in the manner in which the other person wants or expects to be understood. I might have committed something wrong, but I want my husband to understand why I committed wrong. Definitely, I have spoken something wrong against my husband's mother, my mother-in-law. I have called names. According to mediator cannot say that here is a woman who has done all these things, but still she is not understanding. No. Empathetic connections are brought, and I'm asked to give explanation. I give reasons why I did that, how I could have avoided, but I did not do that. Now I know. I apologize. I regret. That's how it is being taken forward. We do not judge people by their observable behaviors. No mediator can judge any individual. It is their life, their problem. They have reacted in a particular manner, because of which some problems have arisen. They are now before you. Try to take them, help them to get away from that problem, take their lives forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question we have from Bhagyashri.
Good evening, ma'am. Actually, I had a question like in arbitration process, there is this private party. Who chooses this private party and how do they do this process?
Arbitration?
Yeah.
The arbitration, section 11 is there. So if you see arbitration, there is one advantage of arbitration and conciliation is that Arbitration and Conciliation Act, Part 3 refers to conciliation, the other parts refer to arbitration. There is a process of appointment of arbitrator. You can agree, supposing in the contract, you could have agreed that Srimati Dash can be the arbitrator, or both of you can agree on a given arbitrator, one arbitrator, sole arbitrator, or two arbitrator, whatever it is. There will be some agreement, contractual agreement. Generally, there will be a contractual agreement between the parties. Otherwise, without an agreement there being there between the parties, you can't go to arbitration at all. Now, supposing both of you do not agree on Sushila being an arbitrator, then you have to file a miscellaneous petition before the High Court. CMP section 11 process is there. High Court has a list of the mediators, arbitrators, and the High Court appoints. Or they can even refer to some arbitral institutions also. The arbitral institutions will appoint X, Y, Z. So if you have, supposing the High Court says Srimati Sushila will be the arbitrator, for example. So they will say, do you want to choose Sushila, Pushpa, Tangachan, Rama, Uma, all these names they will tell. Supposing they say Uma, oh no, I don't want Uma, let some other name be suggested, you can always tell. The court will exercise it. If you do not appoint an arbitrator, then you have an option. I mean, both of you disagree on a particular person. There is no consensus between the two. Then court will appoint an arbitrator for both of you. The act gives all this, inputs on these things.
Thank you, ma'am. Next question we have from Naveen from Tamil Nadu. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am. I have a question. Say if there is a dispute between two parties and then they sort of mutually agree to come to a conclusion or mutually agree upon something, and then the process of dispute ends in the mediation stage, and then after say a couple of months or weeks, again one of the parties starts raising the problem again and again. So does it like abide by any rule? Say for example, if it's like a lawsuit is filed, then a judgment is made and everyone has to abide by the judgment, right? So in this case, how do they handle it?
No, if it is court annexed mediation, any settlement arrived between the parties, it goes to court. And that settlement becomes, the court accepts that if it is within the legal framework, then it becomes a decree. And it has got all the sanctity of judgment and decree passed by a court, and there is no appeal against it. If it is not court annexed mediation, if it is pre-litigation mediation, then you have to find out whether the settlement between the parties can be entered into as through some memorandum of understanding between the parties, registered agreement, whether they can enter into some sale deeds, for example, transfer deeds, sale deed, gift deed, etc., something of that kind. As far as those parties are concerned, this is another way. Third methodology is pre-litigation mediation rules are there. Please look into those rules. Himachal Pradesh rules are there. In fact, Gujarat rules are there. Different states have framed pre-litigation rules as to what happens after a matter is settled in pre-litigation mediation, how it goes to, and they take help of this Legal Service Authorities Act. Under the act, they make use of the particular sections, and thereafter it becomes, once it is accepted by the authorities, what happens is it's a decree and all the consequences will follow.
Thank you.
I believe that's all the questions, ma'am. Are there any other questions you would like to ask? Yes, we have one more from Arunachal Pradesh. Longwan Nong, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, ma'am.
Please.
Ma'am, my question is there any limit to this mediation process? I mean, if parties, upon agreeing on the outcome of the mediation, and then after some time, they again have this conflicts, they again start having conflicts. Then how many times can they approach a mediator? Or
They can
is there any limit?
number of times. For example, in matrimonial cases, what happens is, so let us take a matrimonial case. They approach and there's a pre-litigation mediation. Both of them agree to go back home, happily live for some time, 3 years, 4 years, fresh cause of action, fresh dispute arises, they again come back. But if it is property matters, etc., etc., and then there is a decision, and then it doesn't give a fresh, if it is through court annex mediation or there is a decree passed by the court, then it attains finality and they cannot go back. But as far as matrimonial relationships are concerned, if there is a fresh cause of action, definitely they can come back to the court, provided there is a fresh cause of action, but not on the cause of action that has been agreed to be resolved between the parties on terms of settlement agreed between them.
Thank you, ma'am. We have another question. I believe the participant has not renamed herself. Ma'am, Redmi Note 10. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. I have a question. According to ADR, which is applicable only to civil law, which is also applicable to criminal also, ma'am?
See, there is Srinivas Rao versus Deepa's case judgment is there. Post that judgment, what has happened is criminal cases where it is between the spouses and it has arisen because of the matrimonial disputes between the parties, they can also be referred to mediation. That is where post that judgment only pre-litigation desks are asked to be started in every police station, and even mediation centers have this pre-litigation mediation. So criminal cases where it is because of this matrimonial relationship between the parties, they are referred to mediation. Supposing there are other criminal cases between the parties, in the mediation settlement, what they do is, if they are compoundable offenses, in the mediation settlement, the mediator writes, because of the inputs given by the parties, there are XYZ cases pending between those two parties, and both of them agree to cooperate with each other for fair disposal of the same in accordance with law. Then the matter goes, they file a 482 petition before the High Court, and it is for the High Court, depending upon what is mentioned in the mediation settlement agreement, either to quash the criminal proceedings or not to quash the criminal proceedings also. There is this judgment in the case of Lakshminarayana versus Madhya Pradesh, where the court has said, Supreme Court has clearly said that non-compoundable offenses, where there is heinous offenses are there, you cannot quash. So those are certain cases. So that cannot be. Matrimonial, for example, 498A. These are some cases which can be referred to mediation, and if the matter gets resolved and then thereafter one of the parties who are accused, they go to the High Court with 482 petition. Generally, if it is a genuine settlement between the parties, High Courts are considering those 482 petitions.
I have another question, ma'am.
Check bounce cases are being dealt with. Please, I'm sorry. Please tell me.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. In which other cases appeal can be applicable, ma'am? Likewise, ADR we can appeal in cases, ma'am.
If you go to Arbitration and Conciliation Act, now the law is very strict. That's where people hesitate to go to arbitrators, because supposing there is a civil suit, there is a suit for declaration, you can go to a retired district judge. He will be a wonderful person. He can, instead of waiting in the queue before the court, you can go before him and get an award. But how do you challenge it? To challenge that, there are two grounds only. Under those circumstances, if it is fraud, if it is opposed to public policy, only limited avenues are there for challenging that. You cannot tell the learned arbitrator went wrong in giving this finding, that finding, this finding, nothing. That is as far as arbitration is concerned. Even mediation agreements, you cannot challenge it by way of appeal. because unless it is by way of fraud or there is fraud or impersonation, something of that kind. If it is there, definitely yes, because fraud vitiates everything.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Another question by Arush Khajuria. You may unmute yourself.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. So my question is, ma'am, that India, it's such a big country, and then also ADR is not a method which is used by masses. So why it is so, and what can we do to make people aware of that? Thank you.
That's what I told Mr. Arush. Our court systems are time tested. We have immense faith in the judge. We have immense faith in the court system. We consider judges as not just Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. For us, judge is personification of goddess of justice, whereas mediator, arbitrator is not so. They may be knowing me for past 15 or 20 years. Still, the judge is considered as personification of goddess of justice. That's one system. That's one thing. That's where the judges are also now, they have got, greater responsibility on them, that they are canvassing, they are propagating mediation. They are telling everyone, look, we have faith in this. I have faith in mediation. Please go and try that. If it doesn't get resolved, you can come back here. That's where the inputs given by the judge, when judges with an affirmative statement that they believe and they have faith in mediation as a system, then people are coming forward. That's one aspect. Second aspect is advocates are not trained in mediation, or they are not trained even in mediation advocacy. And a sufficient number of advocates, I don't say that all are not trained. So it is the need of the hour. Our bar councils, our bar associations, all of us should join hands together and then say to it that more number of advocates are trained in mediation advocacy, more number of advocates are trained in mediation, whether they may choose to be mediators or not, irrespective of that, then this system will get strengthened.
Thank you, ma'am. We have one question from Suchi. Suchi, can you unmute yourself?
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, my question was that does the contracts or the settlements agreed upon in mediation are a legal binding on both the parties? Like, is it a legally valid document in court? As in, if two parties have come to an agreement during mediation, can they go against that contract or that settlement and then again go to the court for new proceedings or to challenge the same document which they have signed in the mediation proceedings?
There are two aspects here. Today, we don't have a separate statute, standalone statute for mediation. So if the mediation has been entered into, mediation settlement has been entered into between two parties in private litigation mediation, then probably you have to go through pre-litigation mediation process or Legal Service Authorities Act and then take it forward. If it is a contract inter se agreed between parties because of the intervention of the mediator and assistance facilitation given by the mediator, then an agreement is entered into and there is violation, you can always go on that specific performance of the contract agreed upon, you can go there. The third is, notwithstanding an agreement being agreed to in court annexed mediation, if there is a violation of the agreed terms by one of the parties, you have options. You can move for contempt of court. You can also move for different options are there. We have to see which of the options are available, because it's a decree. It becomes an executable decree. You can get it executed. The terms that are agreed upon cannot be violated. So you can go for that. Is where why we rely upon mediation is that executability becomes very easy. In other cases, there may be an order passed by the court, but still this person doesn't come forward to assist the decree holder in the execution. But when it comes to mediation settlement agreements, because it is in his own commitment, executability will be very easy. If they don't agree, it becomes an executable agreement. That's where the role of the mediator is very prime here, that when you draft an agreement, you should see whether it is an executable agreement. Tomorrow, if one of the parties backs out, whether the decree passed by the court based on this agreement can be executed or not.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Due to the paucity of time, we'll be taking all further questions. I'll send my email down in the WhatsApp group for all of you to send me your queries and questions, and then I shall forward them to Sushila ma'am. Over to you, Anupam ma'am.
Okay, great session and very good thinking by the students. They were so engrossed because Sushila ma'am's presentation was indeed really engrossing and we didn't even know how time passed. So we also really encourage students to write about what you've learned today. It will really help. You can write articles or you can just write about it and absorb what you learned. Sushila ma'am's blog has also been shared in the chat. Please take a look and keep learning on this topic. Thank you, ma'am. Again, thank you very much for this lovely Saturday evening in which we have now determined that we will solve conflicts and, at our end. So thank you, students. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in our next class next Saturday, the details of which will be shared in the WhatsApp classroom group.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, students. Thank you.
So with your permission, let me close the session.
Thank you.
Okay.